Hello everyone. Thanks for joining this session where we hopefully will try to tackle the subject of AI impact on the energy sector. So my name is Fadwa Ouardani. I work at Merantix Labs. It's a Berlin company based where we try to bring AI from research to production for players in multiple industries, and of course among them the energy sector. So whatever sector we can actually have a lot of data, and energy sector being one of the most important ones. So joining me today, 3 energy experts, founders and CEOs of SaaS companies, as we will be focusing on the SaaS format today. Alexandre Torellee, CEO of re.Alto, Dr. René Fassbender, CEO of OmegaLambdaTec, and Christoph Berger, founder and CEO of Ballisto. So please, I'll let you introduce yourself. Maybe Alexander first.
Yeah, so good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. Also based in Berlin, indeed the CEO of re.Alto. So it's the European marketplace of APIs, aiming to create a strong ecosystem to connect energy players and to help them to exchange data for making use of AI and ensuring the energy transition. Nice to meet you.
Thank you. Dr. René?
Yeah, I'm René, founder of OmegaLambdaTec. We are a data science solution company working mostly in the energy sector, but also industry. And we are in the transition phase to go from experimental AI project to production-ready solutions that change the energy sector, hopefully.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Christoph. As Fadwa said, founder of Ballisto. We're not just a pure SaaS company, but we do have a hardware aspect on it. We save companies and municipalities CO2 and energy based on our automated heat management. And we do that by actually using thermostats, which learn behavioral patterns and use machine learning and other techniques to actually automate that whole process of heating.
Okay. Thank you. So let me start the discussion by talking about what we are researching at the moment at Merantix on the topic on AI against climate change. We kind of identified several aspects where machine learning can really have be a powerful tool in reducing greenhouse gas emissions. And we mainly identified 4 aspects. That is, first, measure, predict, and optimize, which is related to energy demand forecasting, autonomous driving, machine learning-based design of components. I would say the second aspect where machine learning can actually have an impact would be reducing CO2 by behavior change or policy. A third aspect would be absorb CO2, engineer climate, so everything related to biosequestration to aerosol engineering for solar geoengineering. And last but not least, the aspect of substitution. So whatever related to alternative fuels use cases, material discovery use cases. So those 4 aspects are the main ones where actually AI can have an impact on the energy industry. But I think as we're discussing with the 3 of you, we will focus on this measure, predict, and optimize. So energy demand forecasting, supply and demand, grid operators. And then my first question for you would be, what is the state of the AI in this subfield of the energy sector today? And how can AI models or machine learning, if some don't know, is a subset of AI. So how can AI models unlock value in the energy sector value chain for energy demand forecasting and your subsectors? Maybe Christoph, for you want to start on this?
Yeah, sure. We are not only, we do have a specific subset of the energy system, which is more into heat, while the others will probably have more focus on the electricity side, possibly. But then looking at that heat side, actually AI or any machine learning techniques to automate the energy consumption side is what we're doing, which is vital and which is possible today. So I want to point out one specific thing we're addressing is that within the buildings we're equipped there is a specific problem which is called a Prerider Problem. So the people, they don't pay the energy, so they're not incentivized on saving energy, for example. In our case, they don't turn down the heating when they leave. And that problem cannot be solved by any manual technology where people have to input data because they're not aware or they don't know that data they need for optimizing the system. So our system only works because of that essential part of automating the sensing and collecting the data, but also automating to generate information out of that data to then act and use that energy in an efficient manner. And in my point of view, there are some of those settings where only through that automation you can actually unlock the value of levering that potential. You can still save energy, CO2, make systems more robust or whatever.
I think, Alexandre, you may want to jump on this because the discussion we had yesterday was...
Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, it's what is quite clear is that, I mean, we are going to an aggressive decarbonization of our society. I mean, it's a must if we want to survive. The planet will remain, and that's one thing that is sure. But if we want to have a better world for our kids, we will need to decarbonize. And decarbonization will it's a societal objective, but how to realize it is the big challenge. And I fully agree with Christoph. It will be by activation and making sure that we can optimize the use of energy, but that we can also, at a certain point, let's say, ensure that all the flexibility that we have in decentralized systems, with the PV, with the heat pump, with the electrical cars that will be plugged to the house, but also the commercial buildings, and then moving to the industry, that everything is actually activated, and that this activation, this connection can only be done through new technologies, because the end consumer, although has the ambition to decarbonize the society, he doesn't want either to have a lot of constraints. So market parties will need to develop new tools, will need to develop new services for the end consumers, and that will be based on the AI, that will be based on applications that will help optimizing the use of energies, or even smoothing out the interaction between the infrastructure, so the system and the end consumer. And that's the reason why actually all these applications are needed. But let's not be naive. There is still a huge progress that needs to be made, because a lot of these applications are actually in construction by startups, by established player, even adjacent sector of the energy. But often we see that the ecosystem are not together, and that people are actually lacking data. And that's also the reason why we are putting in place this marketplace, enabling machine-to-machine communication for data and for services, thanks to a marketplace. And in my activity on a day-to-day basis, I see that in the energy sector, and specifically focused on power, we are still extremely lagging behind in terms of protocol of exchange and these type of things. We are still with XML, we are still with CSV files and FTP servers. So we need really to aggressively jump and make a step forward in embracing data capture, data integration, data processing, and then creating value for the ultimate goal that we all have, which is decarbonizing the society.
Yes, thank you. I mean, I also fully agree. I'll give you a question right now, René, because I think that's exactly what you tackle with your company.
Please
go ahead.
So in other words, we are still in the early experimental phase of AI applications. This is basically the summary. One big driver that is happening now is moving towards real time and increasing the time resolution, which is typically 15-minute steps in the energy sector. We're now, next step would be to go below 1-minute resolution. This can be done for the forecasts of all the quantities in the energy systems. This is happening for the data-driven anomaly detection, and this is then happening for the quasi real-time optimization of complex systems. Yeah? And if you increase time resolution and allow for many different free parameters, things get complicated very fast. And this is why there's still a lot to be done and to be optimized in this sector, with a lot of exciting opportunities that we're currently working on.
I mean, I think I have a question that will go to your sense, because I'm, like yesterday I was talking to Christoph and he asked me a very funny question. Oh, do you think AI is really as intelligent as it claims to be? Do you think like ML models actually live up to the hype? And I find it quite funny, because I think it's the question that's every time, like a lot of people ask us this question, and I think also our listeners may also ask that question. So I would answer it like on my side by saying exactly what you just said, that if you want to have strong AI models, you need to have strong AI models are only strong because of the data you feed them. And the data you feed them are about quantity, but also about quality. So I think that's exactly what you're trying to get with the company, especially like Alexandre and René, to kind of collect all this data from different platforms and try to make sense of it. Because of course, like AI in the energy sector wouldn't have any impact if we don't do this data collection, data processing, data cleaning well enough to train those data models. So my question for you would be, how are you actually doing it as a SaaS companies? How are you trying to fully exploit the data collection, processing, cleaning, using, for example, Christoph, because you have a hardware also that actually do the collection? And that would be like a very interesting question for me.
Was the question addressed to me?
Yes, Christoph, you can start first.
All right. So it is actually not quite easy to get good data and training data, especially if you have your own hardware and you're limited in the number of devices which are outside. Or let's take, for example, GDPR into the constraints as well, to have enough customers sharing enough data which I need to optimize the system. So we're using different methods of using the systems on our own in a larger scale. We're labeling a lot of data. We do look at the data manually when we optimize hardware and software to see how the data might change. And we also look at various patterns. For example, if sensors we use are not even necessary in the future, for example, right? Because we do get enough accuracy through those. And basically, what we're enabling is in the first place, we get for our system, but also then for the customer, for the added value, but we generate data which wasn't available before. So it's not as I can go to a database and download room temperature and heating data of commercial buildings in a large scale. So that's the one thing. So we need to get the training data ourselves, and we have various methods to do so. And on the other hand, whenever those systems are in place, they're actually blind and they don't get any feedback, because let's take our presence detection in our devices. No one tells my device if someone was actually in the room. So that is actually a tricky part. So you need to get quite robust models out of it to then be able to deploy it into the field and have indicators which allow you to know, or at least see if the data you collect are actually valid or not. So one thing to make it a bit more clear is, for example, if you have patterns of behavior patterns of a room, when do people use a room, then you might see possibilities going up and down, and you will always find a reason why that might be that way. But it could also be just sensors being wrong, or things that don't work in your software. But it's hard to get that feedback because there's no one, clicking the button, yes, I was there, or I wasn't there. So that is a challenge, but for our system, that works well as we do it right now.
Okay. And
just want to add on that. I mean, re.Alto is not a software as a service company. We are actually, our mission is really to bring the toolbox to SaaS company, but also to utilities to get actually access to this data, because it's recognized that actually having the set of data to train your algorithm is a nightmare for the moment. It's really difficult. And what is funny, because that's also our activity, we are contacting owners of building, which are basically non-traditional energy players. They are just building, designing, and owning this building. They have these data sets. These data sets are actually having values for AI companies. So we are really trying to facilitate that people having data and that can actually just monetize them to create value and bigger value with the use of algorithm, that we can do that. And your question was also related to aggregation of data and some data formatting. We are also very active on the smart meters. So smart meters are actually devices that needs to be rolled out by the regulated actors, but they are a multitude of routes to actually get near real-time data of these smart meters. And so at re.Alto, we are also shaping and designing a product to get access to this near real-time data of smart meters, because then it can enable also new business model, new energy services that can be built by the newcomers, e-mobility, smart building actors, but also the classical utilities, in order to really offer energy services, in a sense like energy as a service, to the end consumer. So I think that the data capture, the data processing, and the data formatting will be key to enable the creation of value for system software as a service companies or AI machine learning. And hopefully we will succeed pretty soon and pretty big to make sure that this ecosystem can really deliver.
But Alexandre, your company basically gets data from different providers and try to put them into the marketplace. But then
expose them on the marketplace to actually allow them to market their data easier, and for the data consumer to understand what are the data available in Europe, and to easy connect to them to create additional value from it.
But how do you actually ensure the data you get as high quality as you can get?
Yeah, but initially it's the data owner that needs to ensure the data quality, but the moment you are in a platform, of course, we will develop like rating quality indicators where the user can actually say this data set was fantastic, I really liked it. And so that's the principle of a marketplace, to really attract providers of data, consumer of data, and to have also this peer-to-peer review that is ensuring that the providers are professionalizing their data sets and consumer are actually having the value for money that they are providing.
I think the question also is relevant for you, René, because you are doing all the data analysis and the data predictions out of those data. So how do you ensure data quality when you collect it?
Yeah, data quality is definitely the limiting factor for AI applications right now. This is what the other said. This is why it's always best to enhance and complement artificial intelligence with natural intelligence. And in our team, we are all trained physicists. So we start with a deep physical understanding of the system we want to consider or find anomalies in. And the deeper you understand things, the less data quality you need. For example, if you look for anomalies in low voltage grids in real time, we simulate this grid in form of a digital twin before, where we can basically cut power lines and so on, that we know what the anomalies we are looking for look like in the data. And with this knowledge, we can then go into the data and extract this kind of signal. And this way, we need much less real failures in the data and can start right away once the data comes in.
Okay. Thank you for all your answers. I want to push the discussion to another field of AI models, and that actually is important, because now we tackled a bit which value chain can we actually have value with AI, and how do we have strong AI models. Of course, it all comes back to data quantity and data quality. But I think the third aspect for me relevant for AI models or AI impacts overall is scalability of the model and performance of the model. So once you collect, once you clean, you process, and you feed the model, how can we, in your opinion, as this topic said, decentralized word, how can we enable all those actors to actually access the same models and aggregate their data so we can feed one model that can actually have an impact in all the industries and all the actors? Because, I mean, I believe, and in Merantix, we believe that we don't need to actually have centralized models for each actors, but as if we can create impactful models and we can leverage many data from many actors to feed it, that would be the best outcome we can have. So my question would be, how can we efficiently scale data collection among different actors to unlock the full potential? Maybe Christoph, you want to go first?
For me, that'd be data sharing. I mean, what Alexandre does is one of the keys to it. I'd say for us, that would be various APIs to get our data into other systems where they can use that data to also optimize other topics, or we do that for them. And especially for us, because we do also collect the data, we have a look on the data quality we collect. So it is also data quality we can deliver to our partners who use that data then in the end. So,
do you see any barriers for scalability of your model, for example, to different actors?
So I do see a barrier in the market where, although Alexandre says, well, you get a lot of data from existing buildings, etc., those are usually modern buildings, and it depends on how granular the data is which you get. If it's only the heat consumption, for example, electricity consumption, or do you get room data, for example? And looking at our customers, this is super limited. So none of the customers actually has any energy data live and online. They do that manually while looking at the thing. Mm-hmm. And this, of course, is one barrier to scale the system. So you need technology in there to automate that data collection, and that'll be key, combining with the data quality.
You have an answer for that, René, maybe? How do you do it with your company?
Well, if I had a wish, I would go for a centralized energy data platform where all the data is collected. There are initiatives for this on the national and even European level, but of course there are a lot of barriers to overcome. In the meantime, we are working on the other end. We are trying to automate the setup phase and the data cleaning and all these parts, train new models. So we are, as a company, working on automating this part so that this can be scaled up as fast as possible to do situations.
Alexandre, you want to jump in also?
Yeah, well, maybe also leveraging on the let's say my previous years as responsible of innovation and strategy in a transmission system operator, so regulated players transporting electricity. I think AI can already be quite useful in complex setup to help big utilities to optimize their asset fleets, to even steer and help in the system operation and all these type of things. And that's a way, I think, for AI developers to already have let's say a segment that is profitable. I do believe that moving down the segmentation, so going from let's say system operator, big utilities, we will quickly go through industrials, SMEs, smart building, and ultimately the last mile will be the household. And I think that's also the way and AI companies are actually doing it, but that we need to professionalize and streamline the capture, so the data acquisition, the data formatting, and making sure that along the way the AI providers are also making, let's say, their AI as easy as possible to connect. Because what I hear from data providers and clients at re.Alto is that for the moment, setting up an AI machine learning, so algorithm for a certain context, takes a lot of interactions with the client to understand all the metadata and all the context of the optimization of the building. And I think it's an opportunity in the next 5 to 10 years to really get to hopefully as much as possible plug and play also for the algorithm, because it's going to be the only way to have a profitable business case for the last mile. So I think the scalability is there. It's a journey together with let's say, the software as a service company and ourselves also providing certain infrastructure to reduce the marginal cost of data acquisition.
Thank you. I mean, what I'm saying is actually like a question popped into my head. I was wondering, like, what are your opinions actually? Because data collection is good, as we said. Like, we need to enable data exchange and data collection among different actors. But what's your personal opinion on the policy, the data regulations? Because climate change is a worldwide problem, but at the end of the day, we cannot like exchange data with the US or China. We can only like do it in the European level with all the countries that are GDPR compliant. So what do you think about the data exchange and policy that follows with it? So should we actually go through it, or should we more stay in the European level and try to leverage climates in the European level? Maybe like René, you want to go first?
Well, I mean, this is basically a long-term vision, yeah, to exchange data in good quality across the oceans. But I think we're not there yet. We don't need to be there yet because we can start from what we have. And one question that appeared in the chat is, what data is useful to you? The answer is, if we're trying to solve a new use case, we are asking for a full dump of the raw data that is relevant or that might be relevant, and then we are looking into it and check what is actually useful, what data resolution is useful, and what is to be thrown out later. So as a first step for a new problem, all the data that is available is always good to look at, and you can always throw out data later, but not record it if you have thrown it away in the past. So that would be my advice, to save as much as possible for now, and then new use cases might come up.
I also share your opinion on this topic. I want to see like if there are any other maybe opinions on this. Christoph and Alexandre, you want to add something on the question?
I think all the compliance topic and the regulation topic is also a business opportunity for the smart guys that will find a way to really simplify all this while remaining compliant. I mean, it's the $1 billion question, of course, but it's. I mean, I used to be also on the regulated side and being cranky on regulation, saying that it's stopping and hindering the business to actually take off. I think we need to somehow just take the legislation and the regulation as a variable to integrate, and I think there is an opportunity also to make it simpler while being compliant. And I think, yeah, I would first focus on making it a European thing, and then see after, because I think philosophically also the other continent are totally different. So I think Europe wants to be the champion in decarbonization. Let's make sure we support it with digitization and data exchange.
Thank you. I think we actually reached out the time of this session. Maybe like one last message that you would like to share on this topic. Christoph first.
Yeah, I just agree. AI will in the future will unlock a lot of value, and I think there are multiple use cases which are available. Let's just get the data where it has to be. Looking at the GDPR topic you just mentioned, we actually get very good feedback to just have proper form of contracts where the customers feel safe that what we and how we handle their data. So it could be easier, I agree, but there are ways to solve that.
Thank you. Alexandre?
Yeah, well, I hope that all the crisis that we are experiencing for the moment is not only accelerating the digitalization, having a Zoom meeting and a digital conference, but it will be also an electroshock for the energy sector to leapfrog the gap that we have in digitization, and that we can just accelerate, and that established newcomers and new business can really emerge fast from for making the society much better.
Thank you. René?
Yeah, so large-scale paybacks from AI will probably take at least another 5 years. Until then, be brave, experiment, test, improve, and you will win in the data economy. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you. I think my last word would be, for any energy actors, if you have data, please collect it, and please make sure that you collect it in the right way, so you can actually reach to that 5 years and have some impact in 5 years. Because if you don't do the collection now, I mean, you won't have anything anyway in 5 years, I would guess. So thanks, everyone. It was really happy time to share this knowledge with you, and hopefully see you in another context. And yeah, let's see how AI is gonna disrupt the climate change.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a nice day.
Thank you. Thank you all. Bye.